I'm Julianne Pelusi with Paul Hamilton. Paul, you have been talking so much about the Buffalo Sabres and whether or not they are able to keep up with what Don Granato and Kevyn Adams want this team to do, what they want them to be able to do. Do they have the roster to be able to do that? And after some really bad losses, they've picked up some pretty big wins against the Devils and the Islanders in the last 2 days. What is it that's working, and what have they shown you in those 2 games?
Both games are different. We'll start with the Islanders. That was a clinic in how to defend, and we know how much trouble they've had, to a point where you're right. I thought to myself, Don Granato talks all the time that if you defend well, you will get your offensive chances. And they don't seem to want to do that, but they did it like a clinic in Long Island from start to finish. They were great at defending. The forwards came back with the D. They were 5-man units. When there were a couple of chances, Comrie made the big save. They were all in sync, and they didn't get frustrated. How many times have we seen them get frustrated because, well, we're putting pressure on, but the goalie's hot? Well, that goalie was hot too. Varlamov was very hot in that game. 35 shots by the Sabres, and a lot of them were grade A opportunities. But they stuck with it, and they kept going, and they got a dirty goal. It wasn't a straight-in thing. It went off a skate to Kyle Poso.
Pretty.
Yeah,
no.
and he scored.
Nothing about that was pretty.
But they waited for their opportunity, but they never broke down defensively. So that shows, I mean, Don Granato should take that and show that to them every day. See, what I'm telling you is right. If you do it this way, and you play as 5-man units and you defend, you're going to get all sorts of offensive opportunities, and they did. So that's what he's looking for. And if they start doing that as a team a lot, they are going to be really tough to play against. The other game against the Devils?
Yeah, a lot more
different
offensive opportunities there against the Devils on Friday.
Because they hadn't won since the Leaf game in Toronto.
Right.
And they get all uptight. You know, as Granato said, they're cracking under the pressure of a playoff race.
And it seems like an excuse sometimes when Granato says that.
It is true,
and then you see them come out and play the way they did against the Devils, and maybe it's not. Maybe they need that development. Maybe there was too much pressure on that playoff push. So what did you see Friday night?
What I saw against the Devils was, instead of chasing the game, and they even chased the Toronto game, which they won, they scored first. And they scored 2 goals around 30 seconds. It was like 34 seconds, somewhere in there. Now they got a 2-0 lead. Now they're like, whoa, yeah, here we go. We got our confidence back. We're not going to blow it here. We're skating well. This is a good team. We're up 2-0. And what was impressive was the Devils scored to make it 2-1, and they didn't crack. That's a week ago, the Devils would have left the period up 5-2, but the Sabres didn't. The Cousins line was on for the goal against, but they handled it correctly. They know they made a mistake, and they got the goal back almost right away. Jack Quinn on a beautiful goal came back and scored. That's what matters. How do you respond to that kind of, adversity? And I thought they responded very well. And then they had more. Jack Hughes became Jack Hughes. It's 5-4 in the third period, but they got the game in the garage. You know, they figured it out. They didn't panic. They just kept playing. And they showed themselves, against a good team that, by the way, Lindy Ruff was trying to clinch a playoff spot in Buffalo, and the Sabres avoided that.
Poetic, right?
Yeah, the Sabres avoided that because they got the game finished. They didn't panic, and so that gave them the 1 win and the confidence to go into Long Island and then win again on the second night.
You talk about that young line, Peterka, Cousins, and Quinn. What have they been able to do to show that they're not afraid? I don't think that they have been afraid this entire time, while this entire team has been a little bit skittish during that bad stretch. And they're not afraid, and they're ready to be in the NHL and be great NHL players.
I find that very interesting, that the line where the oldest guy is 21 years old is the line that isn't afraid and is playing without fear and has been their best line. Look at how Jack Quinn has excelled the last couple of weeks. Not very many people on the team have. So for whatever reason, the pressure didn't get to those guys. And they played free and they played well. They've been getting opportunities. They had all sorts of opportunities on Long Island and weren't able to score, but they had those opportunities. So I find that and what helps too is Cousins and Quinn played for a gold medal with Team Canada. Peterka has played big games for Germany. So they've been through a little of that. It's not NHL level. Last year, Peterka played 3 rounds of the Calder Cup playoffs and was great. I mean, he was one of the leading scorers in the playoffs when Rochester finally got knocked out, so he had that experience. So I do find that interesting, that line didn't play with fear. It was the other guys who were trying to do too much. Like Thompson and Dahlin are like, uh-oh, we got to do something here. So they take it all on themselves. And they try to go through 3 guys, and they turn the puck over, and off it goes the other way. The pressure was really getting to those guys until the last couple of games.
And well, now the pressure's kind of back on. The Sabres pushed themselves a little bit out of playoff contention. They're a little bit back in the mix now. Not too much, but a little bit. Is the pressure going to be back on, and how do you think that they'll handle it, Paul?
We don't know. I mean, they can build on these 2 games now. Kyle Oposo said they played with a maturity against the Islanders, and they did. And they don't do that often. So that's the thing. I mean, okay, you're going to go through this. You went through it. Now, the Devils are a young team. They never went through it. They've made the playoffs. This is the first time they've been in contention for the playoffs. So it doesn't happen to all teams, but it does happen to teams. The question is, next year, when they, I think, need to make the playoffs, will they react differently? Will they draw on these experiences and react differently in a positive way? If we're talking about Tage Thompson and Rasmus Dahlin and we're betting people, I would say yes, they will. Those are 2 guys that work very hard, who are great hockey players. I would not anticipate them wilting after they've been through this once and know what it's like.
Well, there certainly will not be any excuses anymore. There won't be the young team excuse anymore coming up next year. So we'll see what the Buffalo Sabres can do to close out the season. Paul Hamilton, thank you so much.
Nice talking.